I tried to pick a very hard title. That is about the Osage Indians of Oklahoma who, in the early 20th century, had become the wealthiest people per capita in the United States. There were about 2,000 of those Native Americans on the tribal roll. And because of oil under their land, for which they received leases and royalties, they had become millionaires. In the year 1923, those 2,000 or so Osage received what would be worth today more than $400 million. And then they began to die under very mysterious circumstances, one after the other. They were slain. There was shootings, there was bombings, there was poisonings. Scores of Osage were killed for their oil money, and it would become one of the FBI's first major homicide case. And that is a case, again, where you feel a great moral responsibility towards the truth. I spent 5 years investigating it, trying to uncover as much as I could to try to show that this part of our history, which was one of the worst criminal conspiracies and racial crimes in American history, one that I was never taught in school, that is not part of our curriculum, that we had, while the Osage remembered what had happened, the rest of us had essentially excised it from our conscious. And I tried to document what had happened as much as I could with the help of the Osage, with their perspective, which I think was so important. One of the things I discovered, though, in researching that case was that while the FBI was able to resolve some of the murders during their time, there was really a much deeper and darker conspiracy that the Bureau never exposed, and that there were many more killings, that this was not about one bad figure. It was really about a culture of killing, about morticians who would cover up bullet wounds, doctors who would give poisons, politicians and sheriffs who were on the take, and many others who were complicit in their silence in these crimes. And many of those cases were never solved as a result at the time. And when I investigated some of those killings, I could sometimes gather enough evidence to show who had done it. But in many cases, that was no longer possible because the victims were dead and the witnesses were dead, and because so many conspirators had covered up the evidence. And so one of the things I realized, which gets at this question, which was even after 5 years of research, I wasn't Sherlock Holmes, and I didn't have the power to answer and shed a light on all these cases, which I felt really terrible about because I always thought of the role of history as bringing some accounting. You don't bring justice, but you bring an accounting. You record the voices of the victims, and you identify the perpetrators. But it wasn't always possible in this case. And one of the things that the perpetrators did was they had not only erased their victims, they had in many cases erased their history. And so one of the themes of that book is that erasure.